continued. Welcome to Liberty User Interface. Denis Yelisavet, banner is on the line. Welcome, Denis.
Hello.
Viewers, I invite you to subscribe to the Liberty channel, like our video, and please leave us comments. Also, subscribe to Denis Yelisevic's channel. Let's, Denis, think about the situation that happened yesterday and the reaction of European countries to it. I mean, there was another shelling in Ukraine, 6 people were killed and many others were injured. And what Zelensky says is that the world's reaction to this is zero. We need air defenses and pressure on the aggressor. Previously, when Lviv was shelled, people discussed it actively online, but now they do so less, likely because they're tired and resigned. Do you think Europe is tired too? Why is there zero reaction?
There are many reasons. First of all, it's the standard double game of Europe. On the one hand, they want to find fools, and of course, they found one who then dragged others along. The consequences that will weaken Putin, we've discussed this with you many times already, but they will either give just a little like before or nothing at all. So it's like this free shield for Europe. But you know, there's a big question, a terrible thing. I'll say now, a big question. If they gave a lot of money and a lot of weapons right now, it would end the war. No, or maybe this situation is very painful. I'll stress again, it's terrible. Maybe this kind of position will make people think about peace more. But look, this doesn't correlate at all with what President Trump said. If Europe gives you everything, you'll reach Moscow by 1991. That's not happening. That's not happening. About the people. I don't know why. He'll be surprised himself. Today I saw a speech, he said. Maybe there will be a blackout. He was speaking in Ukrainian. I ask everyone to treat everything calmly. Wow. People are treating it calmly. For them, this is already considered routine. The main thing is that after such shelling, no one shouts, let's go back to 1991. It seems to me there should be more messages. People already have more of a message. Or maybe that's enough. Maybe it's already sufficient.
I'd like to clarify something. There was talk that Trump told Europe, like, you're fighting and we'll see what the results are and you deal with it. The Europeans, in turn, want to exhaust Russia. Do you allow for the possibility that the Europeans might get exhausted by this situation and just quietly, calmly, without making a scene, so to speak, stop doing anything? Just stop helping Ukraine? And then Trump won't help us and the Europeans will stop helping and we'll be left alone. So where is Russia then?
Yes, so we're alone. Most likely such actions could happen, like the latest ones, more or less. Well, so as a not to pressure Zelensky personally, not to impose sanctions on him, not to criminally prosecute his company, his team, I mean, this could help push him toward peace and making, though painful, compromises more quickly. And I can tell you today what I said 2 years ago. There will be painful compromises. And for us, they will be much more painful than for Russia because unfortunately we are in a weaker position. And what you said about Europe, do you know why Putin at this Valdai forum was so relaxed there and is literally trolling Europe? He fully controls the situation as some want to trade, some are afraid, and others have nothing. All of this was planned and he has worked toward it for over 20 years. And he waited for these weaklings, Biden, Zelensky, who is ready for any war, anything at all, just to stay in power and feel cool. Leaders like Macron, you see what's happening in France right now. Macron might not be around much longer. I predicted this a year ago because he's a weak leader and they're leftists. And things are going badly in France just like in Germany. And this will set off a whole chain reaction. When this happens in major countries, even by 70%, global geopolitics will change dramatically. Then President Trump will have a partner again, restoring the familiar alliance between America and Europe. And then all the others, like Putin, can be pushed aside.
But we don't know which territories or how many people we'll enter this alliance with. Because what's happening now is that every day territories are being lost, every day people are dying, which is extremely sad. And about Germany, Angela Merkel said the following, that the Baltic countries are partly to blame for the ongoing war in Ukraine because they refused to support the Minsk agreements. And then the situation was such that the coronavirus started, and because of that, it was impossible to meet with Putin in person and talk to him. And if there had been an opportunity to communicate, this war wouldn't have happened. What do you think? Is she right?
I listened to this in the morning, and honestly, I was shocked. Angela Merkel had a huge number of levers. Let's be honest, they could have pressured Zelensky. There was the Normandy format, and they could have used it. I urge everyone to watch the Normandy format videos and see how Zelensky behaves there, the scoundrel. And of course, whatever kind of person Putin is, it was clear that you can't behave like that. Simply put, you can't behave like that. Merkel and Macron both had opportunities, but somewhere, as I understand it, they had already internally agreed on a scenario. If things go too far, let them weaken Russia. Will help a bit, but I don't really believe it. Of course, those countries are war hawks, of course, because they know that after Ukraine, well, in these conversations, they're next. But are you saying that the most powerful country in the European Union, Germany, with a gross domestic product of 4 trillion euros, didn't have the opportunities? Can you put the Baltic countries in their place a bit? They have no economy and are insignificant in the European Union. Yes, of course they could. Poland, yes, is a powerful country now, but not like Germany, not yet. Could they have influenced Poland? Was Duda really a president you couldn't negotiate with then? It's like, shifting the blame from yourself and blaming those pointing fingers like last time. They're all guilty. They're all guilty. And specifically, I don't take the Baltic countries seriously. They're a United States Agency for International Development project.
And the Poles, they're also talking, they heard this interview with Angela Merkel, and they're saying that she was the one who harmed the European Union. What do you think? Didn't she harm the European Union?
Of course, she's left-wing, and now there's this growth of bureaucracy. She's absolutely not a technocratic person. She didn't carry out any reforms. Well, she's not loud, quite quiet, and just like that, step by step, she's in good relations with Putin. Dig deeper. What if she did? Maybe she connected with the KGB, as many suggest. Somehow everything there is very suspicious and seems to be stitched with white thread. That's why I personally don't trust Angela Merkel. Remember, this shredder was the chancellor before Merkel, and then he worked at Gazprom in a top position. Just think about that. It directly shows that when he was chancellor, there were shady deals and everything else. Gazprom used to sponsor the major German football team, Schalke 04, though I'd have to check if that's still the case. Gazprom funded the Champions League, and it's all part of a larger corruption scheme.
We struggle to trust Europeans, but what about Ukrainians? How should we react to Vitaly Kim's words? He is the head of the Mykolaiv Regional Administration. What is he saying? He says that all wars end either with capitulation or with peace. And in the case of Ukraine, he hopes it will end with peace. They will sign some paper. He says it could be from 2 months to a year. That's a colossal period if you have to live through such a tragedy. But he says it and smokes. Vape says it's terrible for us, but in places like Palestine, people have it even worse. And we have concerts and karaoke. Why do you think he has this point of view?
About Kim, I can say this. He is definitely a genius. Either capitulation or this or that. We all know and understand this very well, but we can say, as I already mentioned, that Ukrainians are enjoying themselves during the war. That's already the case. I'm trying to be polite, but it's a real slap in the face to the nation. These officials, they show that they are actually like demigods compared to ordinary people. They show that they can do anything they want. I'll say and do whatever I want to anyone, me. Today, literally right before our interview, I posted this on my Telegram channel. I remember it very well. The third week of the war, I remember very well what I was doing back then. Vitaly Kim put his feet in colorful socks up on the table. He finally understands when tens of thousands are dying. Nikolai kept showing off. Remember when he flew into the regional council and a shell split the building in two? People are running everywhere, confused and helpless. They weren't warned or evacuated. They were just ignored. And they're doing a photo shoot for him with artificial smoke, and someone is fanning him to make him look all tough. This is madness. This is a disgrace. Back then, everyone was gushing over him. God, he was a good guy. Like, none of you would have known him if not for the war. He became famous because of it. I'll tell you more later. Here's a little insight. He was so media savvy, and he made our people, strange as they are, fall in love with him so much that one day someone from the president's office told him to tone it down and step away from the media. Zelensky can't tolerate competition, and at some point they suspected him, even though he was essentially Zelensky's ally. Since all governors are appointed by the president, he also has ambitions for the presidential elections. And they immediately, if you recall, he was absent from the media for about 9 months. When he reappeared, he always said, Basification is good and the right thing to do. Now you see the situation. People, especially Ukrainians, are enjoying it. Why is that? I propose a package of reforms with the main point being the reduction of the government apparatus. Reduce officials by 70%. Why do I support federalization, which some wrongly equate with separatism? Yes, because each region will then elect its own governor, the position will be elected. Instead of the president appointing his friends, people will choose for 2 to 3 years. People make choices. If they choose you and you say something like Kim did, you'll be gone instantly. But you probably won't say that, since people still choose based on merits or programs. Like in America, a state governor runs with a program. So in Florida, when Governor DeSantis was running for election but withdrew in favor of Trump, he was in the state. Reforms and bills move quickly. He never looks back and claims everything is highly innovative. He criticizes nothing. I'll be the first. You don't like it, but I'll do it because it's common sense. And so if every region lived like this, it would be competition between regions. Here we have the best conditions for people, and here we do too. People will choose. Yeah, there are different governors and philosophies. This one fits me better than that one. In short, the region should handle internal policy and the central government should handle foreign policy. And so Akim's coming back to this. I decided to tell people a little bit. I'm coming back to Akim. Well, he's a scoundrel, just a scoundrel. I can't call him anything else.
The article in Politico says that despite the war in Ukraine, political struggle is still unfolding in Ukraine. We can see that here. For example, yesterday a video of Mykola Tishchenko appeared where he gave a package, a kravchuchka, to a woman. He was crying and trying to squeeze out tears, hugging this woman. This woman, all her relatives died because of the war. What do you think? Was this an election campaign? Was it just a gesture, some kind of heartfelt habit, or was it presented in the media space?
Yes.
I'm writing.
I'm here.
I was running. You see for yourself.
So you insist. Oh, look, here.
She's like that. I know, you get a great one. Once, and we close ourselves off like that.
Sorry.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Sviat.
I'm taking it. Subtitles by Dimator.
Thank you for watching. Subtitles by Dimatorzok. Subtitles by Dimatorzok.
Subtitles by Dima Torzuk.
Subtitles by Dima Torzuk.
Subtitles by Dima Torzuk.
Subtitles made by
Dima Torzuk. Thank you for watching.
Nikolai Tishchenko is a clown. His role is that of a clown. Nikolai Tishchenko is Yermak's godfather. I don't know. There are all sorts of rumors going around now. Some say Yermak covers for him and lets him behave this way. Others say he's already annoyed Yermak and Yermak doesn't react to him anymore. I don't want to guess about that. I don't care. This is a copy of the situation with Kim, just more obvious because Tishchenko does this regularly. He'll come out with his phone, say nonsense, can't even string two words together, Slava Ukraini. So what's the point of this? This is a Kravchuchka woman, a symbol of the poverty of the 90s, a symbol of the poverty of the 90s, and he's giving it decorated in Louis Vuitton colors. That's an actor's tear. All these hugs are just for the camera. There's a person standing behind filming. Why do people do it? Why? Well, first, they see themselves going further in politics now. Their brains are so atrophied, they don't realize that people will spit on them. After the war, when the dictatorship ends and Ukraine becomes democratic again, even Tishchenko will turn against him. He understands the second part, and nothing will happen to me for saying this. I'll mock them, I'll call them scum, I'll just mess around with these little people, and they'll put up with everything. And I just watched this, you know, I stepped aside, but if you think, well, officials are little people, let's see how this ends. Ukrainians will gain self-respect and realize we don't need as many officials, especially with artificial intelligence. that everyone should be in elected positions, that we need to change the constitution, we need to establish a recall mechanism for any position, mayor, governor, and so on and so forth. Because otherwise, it's just people for the state. But in normal countries, the state is for the people. That's a big difference. And that's what Tishchenko is doing. It's disgusting.
I'm also amazed that the woman didn't say anything to him in response. For example, why don't they stop the war? Why don't they help? Why don't they provide for people who have suffered from the war, for internally displaced persons? She also hugged him and thanked him. Is it out of disappointment, out of despair, or why do you think that is?
I don't know. We don't know. Maybe it's a staged video, or maybe they just acted it all out there. If a Krovchuchka makes a woman cry, that's happiness. What kind? Are you expecting people like that? These are people driven into poverty by rulers in fancy suits like that. Driven into poverty, you understand? These guys in colorful socks with their feet on the table and people like Tishchenko drove them into poverty. And a person like that, plus with a Soviet mindset, he's afraid of everything. And why is that? On October 1st, people were unaware that new financial monitoring rules took effect. There's just this huge list. I didn't even know myself. I read it in the morning. A list like this for 30,000 hryvnias. It's being monitored. That's being monitored. It means all those transactions are being monitored. Everything here. You can't manage your own money or do business. Your finances are controlled. In America, you can make payments and send money abroad, and they do it for you, and nobody bothers you because that's how the economy works. Subtitle editor, A. Semkin. There, the aim isn't to have people, even those of average means or wealth, but to ensure individuals feel confident and independent. Because people like that will start speaking out like I do on YouTube, you understand? And for them, it's better to have a grandma with a card who will kiss the last scoundrel for it. I'm serious. That's how this technology works.
People, please subscribe to the Liberty UA channel for interesting, relevant opinions. You will be able to reflect on all this, to criticize it, because that's very important in our time. That's the situation. Servants of the people also supposedly don't trust that if elections take place, the president won't want to run in them. That's what Politico writes as well. They think that Zelensky will run in the elections and that he won't even have any opponents, because right now there is supposedly pressure being put on them. Do you think there's pressure on Poroshenko or anyone else? And is he planning to run in the elections? By the way, the Servant of the People Party will be gathering this week. We'll find out what's interesting there. But what do you think about this?
First, Liberty UA sometimes features Zelensky's party members. It would be interesting to hear their views on whether Zelensky is lying or truthful. It's clear to me, we've talked about this before, after his Axios interview, he basically said, there's a war, so I'm leaving. That's a blatant lie. He's just fantasizing. For the next term, I won't call it the second, since it might actually be the third. As for everything else, we've already discussed all of this many times. The politician wrote about the truth regarding Poroshenko, noting sanctions were clearly imposed on him. All political opponents, including me and Arestovich, are under pressure and our families are affected. This person can't tolerate any competition at all. He wants to clear the field. And I once said this, but people just ignored it. I see it. The generals, Zaluzhny and all those who have been under criminal investigation since the beginning of the war. And when Zaluzhny was sent to London, he was told this. If you start something here now, we'll prosecute everyone and even jail them. And this is a tool of pressure. Politics, this was also written. A tool for Zaluzhny to exert pressure in the upcoming election campaign. But I want to say right away, I will not support Zaluzhny in the presidential elections. Enough. This isn't a solution, just trading one problem for another and condemning us to 5 more years of military rule and hardship. Ukraine won't develop or be a place for a happy life. This is how it will be. If you want to test yourself, come to Ukraine or keep living in Ukraine. And that's the continuation. So neither option is good. And we don't know anything right now. These ratings are just nonsense. Because you need to turn on the television, open up freedom of speech so that everyone can run an election campaign in Kiev calmly, live safely, and not be afraid of what you say or propose. Then we'll see the real rating. To be continued.
An interesting situation happened last week when pranksters called Samantha and introduced themselves as Poroshenko. It's interesting that sanctions are on Poroshenko. Why did they introduce themselves as Poroshenko, and why did she share information about the 1.5 billion Ukraine was getting monthly? I wonder if they had said they were Yushchenko, would it have been the same? From this, it seems that Poroshenko was on the same side as Zelensky. But why are there sanctions against Poroshenko? Why doesn't he reveal these secrets if he knew about them earlier? So what is this situation?
And do you mean Poroshenko is in on it together with Zelensky?
That's what I mean. When the pranksters called Samantha, the former president of United States Agency for International Development, she said that since the beginning of the war, Ukraine had been given 1.5 billion hryvnias every month. That's how it was. And these very pranksters introduced themselves as Poroshenko. They called on behalf of Poroshenko. And I'm curious if they called on behalf of Poroshenko. So the confidence that Samantha trusted Poroshenko for some reason and could give this information.
In my opinion, because she was an active participant since the times of Maidan. And they brought Poroshenko to power, and Poroshenko gave them certain promises to turn the country against Russia, to persecute the language. United States Agency for International Development needed all this to stir things up in order to finally bring it to war, to help Putin bring it to war. They knew Russia wouldn't win the war, but we could weaken them. He apparently still has a personal relationship and likely some trust with Poroshenko. You need to realize Vovan Lexus, these pranksters, are Russian special service agents. They know who's involved and their relationships. Maybe they were wiretapping someone. I'm pretty sure they were. Maybe they hacked some messages. And they knew very well what they were doing. You can clearly see the direction of their questions. That's it. They had a clear technical assignment and knew exactly what they were doing.
Regarding the elections, there was some interesting information from Arestovich. He gave an interview, and what was discussed in that interview? He says that if he became president, or if he were president, because Ksenia Sobchak asked him, "You are the president, what do you do?" He says, "I give up 4 regions and Crimea, where the action is now, but claims it's not a defeat. I'm going to Putin to negotiate with him. I don't see anything terrible in this because we need to negotiate." Peace in Ukraine. Together we can hold a joint prayer in the church for those who have died. And if Putin were to lay flowers at the monument to the fallen Ukrainian soldier, then Arestovich would do the same at the Russian one. I'm interested in your opinion. What would you do if you were president? How do you respond to such words from Arestovich? Are these the right actions or not?
I don't want to discuss it, and I never tried to. I've often been asked this question, would you give it up? I'm not going to trade territories because I'm not the president. I don't know how Arestovich thought of that. It seems intentional. He has already lost here. Currently, he's being criticized on all Telegram channels and public pages and has essentially taken responsibility. It's Zelensky, not Arestovich or Yelisevich, who decides. But all of this turns people not against those who are actually guilty. I don't like Arestovich, but he's not responsible for what's happening. He did serve it, and that's what you can hold against him. He praised the dictator, but claiming Arestovich caused Ukraine's disaster is wrong. He lacked power. Zelensky controlled everything. So would I fly to Putin? Yes, but not to pray. I would fly, yes, and I would talk, yes. I praise him for his honesty in openly saying it. I agree with that. I didn't watch the Sobchak interview, just saw some clips. Today I agree with him on that. If the war ends, it might not be very good for us. We could lose territory, but it will be over. United States Agency for International Development's actions of inciting the military and sowing hatred in the country suggest there won't be another war. Our success is essential. If we keep doing things the old way, as I've said many times, war or another revolution will happen. When everyone around you is strong and you're weak, someone will take advantage of the situation. It just doesn't happen that way.
I understand that you support reforms and believe that this is almost the only way for Ukraine to get out of this situation. Let's discuss Ukrzaliznytsia's current situation. Today, there are still no reforms, but we face a 20 billion hryvnia debt. This debt was formed as before, even before the war, when people with benefits traveled on the railways or when tickets were sold at lower prices. This was balanced because the same railway carried more expensive cargo, which compensated for the difference. Now, since the war began, less cargo is being transported and more of the needs of the military are being met. And a budget deficit arises, which needs to be covered. So what are the options? There are only 2 options. The first option is either to raise taxes for taxpayers, for entrepreneurs, as you can see, so that taxes cover everything, or to finance 20 billion hryvnias from the state budget. There are no reforms now. How do you view this problem and what should be done?
Look, Tatiana, actually, this is what we should be talking about with you. This is a prime example of a state enterprise and government operations. People may not want to hear it, but we'll make them listen with you now. Roughly 20 billion hryvnias. First of all, I ask everyone to realize these numbers. $500 million, $500 million. That's astronomical money. A company that has a monopoly that can do anything, anywhere, and always still has such a huge deficit. Continuation. Look, it's impossible to carry out any reforms inside Ukraine. There's only one reform: privatization. Divide it into parts and privatize. This is the reform that will save things, as a businessman aims to offer better service for less. And there, everything is real. He won't steal from himself. But here, where did the loss come from? You know, if there were real agencies in Ukraine and they focused not on businessmen and politicians, but on real issues, then they would notice things there, if not right away. Tenders skim profits from fuel at companies like Ukrzaliznytsia. Prices are inflated, deliveries incomplete, and shady deals occur. It's like that at every state enterprise, a feeding trough for people to fill their pockets and leave. We're businessmen. We're businessmen. Next, there's a person named Tishchenko, who used to be a great journalist, a great opposition figure, a pure United States Agency for International Development product, a pure product. Continuation. He ran from Poroshenko's party, betrayed Poroshenko. No matter how I feel about Poroshenko, I don't like traitors. He betrayed Poroshenko. Now he's on Zelensky's payroll, or to be precise, on Yermak's payroll. He joined the supervisory board for the third time in a row, earning nearly 13 million hryvnias, about $500,000 as a member. A man who has never built anything, isn't a railway worker, entrepreneur, or manager. He's a complete nobody. A lackey of the president's office, before that, a lackey of United States Agency for International Development. I'll use the correct names for things. Here he is, all orchestrated by people like Tishchenko. And it was United States Agency for International Development that put him there because they want to control large enterprises. That's one of the reasons they want Ukraine. And that's why, you see, America, there's United States Agency for International Development, but United States Agency for International Development is not America. It's radical left. If America did this, they'd discuss privatization, and maybe American companies would handle part of it. Yes, but then it's business, you see. Private, it pays taxes, it creates jobs, it provides good service. But state-owned means minus 20 billion. And you say you read somewhere, right, that taxes, like, as an option could be raised in order to...
So it would be paid by someone else, either by entrepreneurs or through state budget funds. Recently, remember, they were seeking 300 million hryvnias for military salaries, saying funds would only last until November 1st and none would be left after. Roxolana Pedlasa said this. Then just a few hours later, information appeared that they had supposedly already found a way to pay out this money. And now, if this responsibility is placed on the state, will it be able to handle it? We can't know for sure, but this is Ukrzaliznytsia. It's the main supply artery for the military. They need to deliver food and medicine. Rotation happens this way, and this situation needs to be resolved as soon as possible.
I won't give any advice because it's being run by Seryoja Tishchenko, the incompetent. Not only entrepreneurs, but everyone will have to compensate. Do you understand the situation? And if they're seriously, I haven't even seen anything like this. If they're seriously planning to raise taxes for entrepreneurs even more, then the entrepreneurs will shut down. They'll leave, I don't know, they'll squeeze out of Ukraine and just leave. Neither Serhiy Leshchenko's failures nor corrupt officials leaving Ukrzaliznytsia will make up for it. And it's just monstrous. What we're discussing right now is monstrous. And if people don't understand this, Ukraine has no chance.
We're talking about the fact that the losses are covered by businesses. That's right, the losses are covered by businesses or money is allocated from the state budget. Regarding whether girls who work on OnlyFans, that kind of platform should pay taxes, in your opinion? Because now there's talk that they haven't paid more than 300 million hryvnias in taxes, and they are already considered tax evaders. So they will be. They are being and will be held accountable for such an obligation. The company itself supposedly paid these taxes, but the girls themselves did not pay taxes from their own income. What do you think should be done in this regard? Well,
we've read it. They are harassed by police, forced to pay protection, and told they won't be bothered if they pay. You see, when everything is by the law, it's controlled by the police, the so-called Ministry of Internal Affairs, the security service, maybe some criminals. Well, criminals, unlikely. OnlyFans and offline things exist, but people still protest, saying this can't be legalized. We're Orthodox, but remember, we're a secular country, not a religious one. It should be legal, and if someone chooses this activity, it's their own business, regardless of our opinions. If she's doing this, yes, she's paying taxes. No one has the right to bother her.
Thank you for your thoughts. I really wish this problem with Ukrzaliznytsia could be solved, because not only does Ukrzaliznytsia face daily shelling, it's also an artery for supplying the military. And this is a very relevant issue today. Thank you. And thank you to our viewers for being with us. Subscribe to Denis Yelisevich's and Liberty UA channels. See you next time.
Thank you.